And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, the 20th day of October 2022. Well, it's a beautiful day out here in Brisbane, though it is cloudy and a little bit humid and 21 degrees, but still very good. Right now, let's get on with the news for today. So we have the news update followed by the daily India report and our weekly events that are taking place. So first of all, let's take a look at that flood situation and see what the current warnings are.
We have seen more thunderstorms, particularly across central inland parts of Queensland, down towards New South Wales and even western parts of New South Wales as well. So the highest rainfall total we saw overnight was at Gladstone Airport, with a very intense thunderstorm dropping more than 100 millimetres in the space of just over an hour yesterday. Also did see some pretty big falls out towards Emerald Way as well. And Ivanhoe in western New South Wales saw 70 millimetres yesterday, making it their wettest October day on record. And we have seen this gradual shifting of thunderstorms getting further east and further south as this low pressure system makes its way across the country.
And so even though those warnings have been cancelled, thunderstorms very much do continue, and it's slowly pushing southwards. How far south will it get through the day today?
So for today, we're really focusing on an area through the eastern inland, particularly on and west of the ranges. So we're looking at the possibility of severe thunderstorms all the way from Charters Towers in northern Queensland down towards Billawheeler and then Roma, and possibly down as far south as kind of Narrabri into Dubbo. And also the possibility of severe thunderstorms to Mildura as well. So all the way back down into northern Victoria, could see thunderstorms today. And the risk, of course, is with heavy rainfall. And for those through inland parts of southern Queensland, there is also the risk of damaging winds and large to giant hail as well. So we'll be issuing warnings through the day as required. So really keep reminding people through eastern inland parts of Queensland, New South Wales, and particularly the Mallee in Victoria to keep an eye on those warnings today.
It's coming with damaging winds. Giant hail. What point does hail become giant?
So the Bureau does issue warnings for hail. So large hail is anything more than 2 centimetres across, but giant hail is more than 5 centimetres across. And these are the kind of hailstones kind of bigger than golf ball size. But of course, many people in Queensland, New South Wales know that hail can get much bigger than 5 centimetres, can get 12 to even 15 centimetres of width as well. Not quite going to see those kind of size of hailstones today, but certainly is a risk of seeing bigger than 5 centimetres today.
All right, we're keeping a close eye on several rivers. In the south of Queensland, we've seen renewed river rises, and the river has been rising quite slowly at Echuca. Now, the latest I understand from the Bureau is that you're expecting it to get to 95 metres above the Australian height datum, which is essentially sea level. Is that still where you're sitting this morning?
That's right. So just having a look at the Murray River at Echuca, it's currently sitting at 94.42, and of course that 1993 level was 94.77. So it's only about 30 to 40 centimetres off that 1993 level, but it is still rising and is expected to peak over the next few days as well. Still expected to get above that 1993 level, but as you say, many other flood watches and warnings have been issued all the way from about central Queensland with some of those storms, and reissued for some parts of the western slopes of New South Wales. So over the next few days, with this rainfall situation playing out, we'll be issuing further flood watches and warnings. Everything is really, really wet. So really reminding people, not just across the Echuca and the Murray, but through central parts of Queensland and inland New South Wales, to be weather aware over the next few days and keep an eye on those warnings. And as always, follow advice from your local SES.
The next system coming in at the end of the weekend, and that looks like it's going to be very wet as well. We've only got about a minute here, Jonathan. Is there anything more coming in the outlook?
There is, unfortunately. So this low pressure system causing the rain will gradually push towards the east coast on Saturday, but then late Sunday and Monday there's another low pressure system forming, and this time it'll impact Victoria and also Tasmania, and looking to be another wet period. So looking at 50 to 100 millimetres over the next 5 days for northeast Victoria and into eastern New South Wales. So a very wet 7-day period ahead.
That is really just nerve-wracking, Jonathan. Thank you, though, for being so across it for us, for the whole country. Back on the tools. We'll chat to you soon, I'm sure.
Thanks.
So there you are, that's the situation, and we'll need to keep an eye out on seeing what the updates are. But right now, let's hear from the New South Wales authorities on that alert.
We do have some concerns around the upcoming weather events. We currently do have some major thunderstorm activity in the northwest and central west of the state, which is impacting upon those areas there. That is causing some renewed river rises in those areas and some additional concerns. In relation to the southern part of the state, that weather event that will be occurring on Saturday is most likely to cause increased river rises and may lead to more isolations and significantly more road closures across the area.
Okay, so that's a bit of a worry. So let's talk about the southern part of the state, of course, Moama. I spoke to you from there yesterday. I'm across the river in Victoria this morning, but obviously you're pretty concerned about what might be coming Moama's way the next couple of days.
Yes, we are, and we are, continually evaluating the situation there, and we'll move some additional resources in there to assist. A lot of work will be done today with our Victorian counterparts to determine broader strategies across both borders to assist those communities in that area. So we have a considerable amount of assets in that area, including a considerable amount of air assets. So there'll be a lot of recon done today to determine, the outcomes of overnight, and also determine some strategies to address some of those issues that will rise over the weekend.
Have you got an idea of how many people have been evacuated from Moama and where the evacuation centres are being set up for people perhaps wanting to get out in the next day or so?
Yeah, we currently have an evacuation centre that has been established in Moama. There's been about 75 people have registered themselves there. A number of people also from Victoria have registered themselves there. Dependent upon that need, we'll look at increasing those evacuation centres broadly across the Murray, working with our other government partners, and then determining, the greater needs going on. Approximately 300 people at this stage have been evacuated. We do have 8 emergency warnings out at the moment. Those are all within that Moama area, and we've asked people, to make sure they heed our warnings, heed the advice that we've given them. But the advice for people broadly across New South Wales is, over the next couple of days, monitor our Facebook site, monitor our website, and please take heed of any warnings that we issue. Just makes it so hard when people don't heed those warnings, and they become isolated and trapped, and then require either rescuing, which may put our volunteers and other agencies at risk.
Yep, great advice, and that heavy rain is not going to help anybody, of course, over the weekend. Ken Murphy from the New South Wales SES, appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that update. And as we said, it is a situation where we need to just keep an eye on. Well, right now, we know that there's many people who are helping out, and it is good to see that our students are coming out to assist.
Why do the Year 12 students decide to chip in? You had, I'm sure, lots of fun organised for Markup Day. Chip in instead and help fill those sandbags.
Yeah, well, because our celebration day was cancelled, there was really nothing we could do about it. But, give back to the community, which have helped us through our 13 years of school. So it was really rewarding, and it was so much fun as an alternate celebration day, I suppose.
So, just so further describe the mood there. What was it like, the students filling those sandbags?
Yeah, it was just it was very surreal to see so many people come together and fill so many sandbags to help protect our community. It was just very, I guess, surreal is probably the only word to describe it.
And how are you feeling as a member of the community as the flood waters rise, and it's a pretty much uncertain forecast for the next couple of days?
Yeah, it's quite scary, the uncertainty, but I know that, if we all come together, we will get through it, and that's the only thing we can do as of right now.
It's a troubling time for so many people here, but equally troubling for people like you doing their VCE, the Year 12 final exams. Now, I believe you've been given the choice, all students have, of either sitting your exams or not.
Yeah, so we got an email yesterday which basically said if your house is directly impacted, you will get a drive score, which is a massive, weight off those people's shoulders. But if your house isn't directly impacted, you can choose whether to take that drive score or actually sit your exams for an actual score, I suppose, yeah.
Is your house directly affected, potentially?
No, so we're pretty okay for the moment. We're on top of the only hill in Echuca, so we should be okay.
Okay, but you still have the choice. What would you like to do? Sit the exam or rely on the studies so far this year?
I'm not exactly sure at the moment. I probably will sit my exams just to kind of feel a bit more done with school. But I'm making that decision today. So.
And what would you like to do, Holly?
Next year I want to do a Bachelor of Occupational Therapy at ACU in Melbourne. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you.
Wishing you all the best with all your education, and good to see that youngsters are coming in and doing the right thing, getting involved with the community work at that early stage. That is such a wonderful thing to see. Well, right now, there is a shocking study that has come out that nearly 25% of women have been victims of emotional abuse. Here's that report.
We already know we've got an epidemic of intimate partner violence in this country. I think what this data shows is the depth of that, and that it goes to really not just physical and sexual manifestations of that abuse, but also the emotional, the financial controls and things like that.
Can you break that down? What exactly is coercive control, emotional abuse? Because there seem to be lots of elements to it.
Yeah, so they're not interchangeable terms. Coercive control is actually when someone uses a series of behaviours that are abusive over time against somebody who they're in a relationship with to dominate or to control that person. And it might be emotional abuse or it might be physical or sexual, but the whole point of it is that it's in the context of intimidation and power imbalance.
And emotional abuse, that's separate to coercive control?
Well, it can be a part of coercive control. You know, a person that's exerting coercive control over somebody might use a whole range of forms of abuse, and that can be emotional. It can actually solely be emotional as well, and we know that from the death review, that in some cases it was all emotional abuse and then it led to a final fatal kind of outcome.
Is it sometimes the case that women don't recognise that they're suffering this abuse?
Well, look, 100%. And I think that what's really important is that this data is about self-disclosed data in a survey. And we really expect when the new data comes out later this year that we will actually see more and more people identifying that they're experiencing. And that's because we've been having more conversation. There's been more community education about it. And more people saying, oh my gosh, that's me. But also less likely to feel shamed in coming forward and labelling that.
Who's most at risk?
Look, we know that young people are at greater risk. Obviously, being a woman is the greatest risk factor in experiencing coercive control, but also people who may have a disability, people who speak a language other than English at home. There's a range of risk factors. One of the things that this survey pulled out was around financial insecurity or dependence, and that's really important because what we're actually picking up is that people who have got less power or are subjected to multiple forms of discrimination are actually at greater risk of being targeted by emotional or intimate partner abuse.
It's not just women who suffer this, men can too.
Well, that's right. And when we're talking about emotional abuse, put-downs, degrading comments, you know, threatening and that sort of thing in a relationship, it actually is quite commonplace in this country. And look, this is happening in everyday households, in our own households, with our friends and our family and our community members. So I guess what this data does, it's an invitation for us to start having a real conversation about, you know, this is happening right across the community. What can we do to address it?
What do you make of the progress in laws being brought in against coercive control in particular?
Look, they're really, really important laws because we need to make sure that the law catches up with people's lived experience of violence and abuse. If we're just catching it when someone might slap somebody else or push somebody else, that's not necessarily going to the hub of what people are experiencing, the most dangerous forms of violence, and that is coercive control. So we need a criminal justice system that actually picks up on the dynamics and the patterns of abuse and the power and control in relationships over time, and not just a single incident, which may in fact be somebody resisting or finally fighting back, as opposed to being that primary victim.
And how often do cases of coercive control move into and progress to actual domestic violence?
Yeah, well, coercive control, we would say, is at the centre of violence. But certainly when we're looking at some of those emotional and manipulative kind of behaviours in a relationship, it does tend to, in most cases, take on a life and, you know, progresses over time to get more and more severe. Most of us, when we get into a relationship, we don't straight away see those red flags. The person is often very charming, you know, very loving, very romantic. It's over time when those behaviours start to slip and start to present themselves that we go, oh, actually, I'm not quite sure about this. This is actually uncomfortable. And then to the point where, actually, I'm feeling unsafe here. So it can be quite a progression over time.
And if friends or family are worried about someone, what can they do? Yeah,
look, it's really important to know that if you're worried about someone or if you're worried about your own safety, that support is available 24/7. So you can call 1-800-FULL-STOP, which is 24/7 confidential, which is 1-800-385-578. And you can also call 1-800-RESPECT. There is support available, and that's really the #1 step to achieving safety, because everything else can follow from that, and we can assist you on your journey.
Hayley Foster, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us.
And as Hayley was saying, if this story has raised any issues for you, you can get help by calling the National Sexual Assault.
And of course, the helplines are always open, but you know, it is the event that really is concerning, and that's why many organizations such as the White Ribbon movement is working towards raising awareness on the issue. Well, right now let's go to the Northern Territory, where the pressure on government to tackle crimes is rising.
Night by night at a cost to the taxpayer of hundreds of thousands of dollars. This security unit is the government's latest attempt to reduce crime and disorder in Darwin's northern suburbs.
A lot of it is alcohol related, so that is a huge concern.
The two-person unit patrols Malak, Karama and Palmerston CBD, all areas in Labor ministers' electorates. Weary locals say the units are effective but could be pushing problems elsewhere.
The problem is shifting, it's not being resolved.
Others, like fed-up business owners in Alice Springs, question why they've missed out.
I really believe that we need to trial dog patrols down here, not just up in Darwin.
The move has also raised the question of whether there are enough police to patrol Darwin's northern suburbs after the local member Nariar Kit recently told the ABC there weren't. In a statement, the police service said it's currently facing unprecedented numbers of calls each day and the demand on its frontline services is significant. A former police officer, Labor politician Mark Turner, has spent many nights pounding the pavement of his Palmerston electorate.
And the sad reality of things at the moment is that if I don't, people are calling police and there's just not enough of them to go round.
The government says the patrols are a short-term solution in antisocial hotspots while it addresses drivers of crime and not a replacement for the police. Jesse Thompson, ABC News.
And of course, that is a worrying situation, and of course, crime is on the rise right across, and some things like, petty thefts and the unnecessary break-ins and all those kind of things that are taking place. It is just so hard. It's not a good thing to see. What can the police do? They can't be everywhere. I think that it needs to be a little bit more community awareness. Well, right now, let's go to Western Australia, where unions are fighting for a better pay and conditions.
While the Premier spent the morning celebrating a boost to railcar manufacturing and jobs for the state, negotiations with nurses are going off track.
The ban on double shifts begins at 3 p.m. today.
Union members voting to go ahead with the first stage of industrial action, even after a last-minute pitch by the Health Minister to bring forward nurse-to-patient ratios.
I sort of said that yesterday morning, that if that could be done, we would do that.
Better pay remains a sticking point.
We can aspire to 10%. That's what the members want us to aspire to. As I said, we'll keep negotiating.
That's a long way from the government's offer of 3% plus a $3,000 sign-on bonus. While the opposition maintains it's not enough, it's vague on what the offer should be.
Quite clearly, the McGowan government can do more than its current offer.
But both sides agree on one thing.
We just would like to see no industrial action today or in coming days, because we've exceeded to what was asked for, and nurses have had a big win.
I agree that there should not be additional industrial action, but the Premier can fix this.
Until there's agreement, the union says most patients can expect delayed care. And the McGowan government is now preparing for yet another fight, with police also threatening low-level industrial action from Monday in a bid for better pay. Officers appear to have the support of the Police Commissioner for better penalty rates.
I've spoken to the Minister about this and I've spoken to the union about this. We're all in furious agreement. We need police in the door, and the best way to do that is to pay them for the hard shifts.
The government says negotiations with both unions are ongoing. Kean Burke, ABC News.
Well, there you are, essential services versus proper wages. So, it's once again, as I mentioned before, a balancing act. Ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls for global cooperation to deal with terrorism, corruption, drug trafficking, poaching and organised crimes. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi underlined the need for the world to act together and fighting the growing menace of terrorism, corruption, drug trafficking, poaching and organized crimes. Modi was addressing the 90th Interpol General Assembly hosted by India in the capital, New Delhi. Modi said Interpol must act and prove to be an effective and successful platform for tackling crime, corruption and terrorism. Modi remarked that Interpol has connected police organizations globally across 195 countries for the past 99 years. He said Interpol will be celebrating 100 years of its inception next year. The Prime Minister released a commemorative postal stamp and a 100 rupees coin to mark the 90th Interpol General Assembly. The Indian Prime Minister said, when threats are global, the response cannot be local as the pace of these dangers is faster than earlier. Modi said there is a need for the global community to work even faster to eliminate safe havens of criminal activities. On the threats of transnational terrorism, the Indian Prime Minister said India has been combating it for several decades, even before the world recognized it. He reiterated the need to further develop international strategies to tackle this menace. He emphasized the establishment of early detection and warning systems, protection of transportation services, and ensuring security for communication and critical infrastructure, intelligence exchange, and technical assistance.
The Uddhav Thackeray faction of the Shiv Sena will join Indian National Congress leader Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra. Shiv Sena Chief Uddhav Thackeray or his son Aditya will be joining Rahul Gandhi's National Unity March when it enters Maharashtra state in November. The march has completed 1,000 kilometers in the second week of October. The confirmation that the Sena will join the Yatra came a day after a delegation of the Congress party met Thackeray at his Mumbai residence to invite him to join the Maharashtra leg of the Yatra, which begins on 6 November. The delegation, which was led by Congress Maharashtra in charge H.K. Patil, also met Nationalist Congress Party Chief Sharad Pawar to invite him to join the 3,570-kilometer march across India. Reportedly, Thackeray told the party that either he or his son will mark the Sena's presence. Likewise, Pawar has promised to join the Yatra, as has his daughter Supriya Sule. The Bharat Jodo Yatra, currently in Andhra Pradesh, is scheduled to cover 383 kilometers in 16 days in Maharashtra before it heads to Madhya Pradesh. Rahul is expected to address 10 public meetings as he makes his journey across Maharashtra.
India is hosting the biggest ever defence exposition. Def Expo 2022 opened on October 18th with the theme Path to Pride.
The 12th edition of the biennial Defence Expo began in Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar in Gujarat state. The 5-day mega event will see live demonstrations showcasing the equipment and skill set of the armed forces, public sector enterprises and industry. The theme of Def Expo 2022 is Path to Pride, that officials say is in line with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision to transform India into a strong and self-reliant nation. A highlight of this year's exposition is the first ever showcase called Invest for Defence by India's Ministry of Defence to promote investment in the defence sector. Over 50 startups will showcase their products at the pavilion. For the first time, states and union territories have been invited to set up pavilions at the event and several have confirmed their participation. Addressing the India-Africa Defence Dialogue, which was held on the sidelines of Def Expo, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh underlined India's commitment to exploring new areas of convergence for defence engagements with African countries. Defence ministers and other high-ranking officials from 50 African countries participated in the dialogue.
The Canadian government has decided to waive medical examinations for residency applicants who have already arrived in the country.
The Canadian government will waive medical examination for around 180,000 temporary and permanent residence applicants who are already in the country. Sean Fraser, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, has announced on Twitter and otherwise that permanent and temporary residence applicants who are already in Canada and meet certain criteria are exempt from immigration medical examinations. This new measure will help provide faster processing. Office notice regarding the same reads, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada has implemented a temporary public policy that exempts certain low-risk in Canada foreign nationals from submitting an immigration medical examination as part of their application when their previous IME expired. This supports faster processing of applications to help eligible foreign nationals quickly obtain temporary or permanent resident status. However, the applicants must provide the unique medical identifier number from their previous medical exam while submitting the new application. This is applicable till October 6, 2024.
Adani Defence and Aerospace has announced it will buy India's oldest maintenance, repair and operations company called Airworks for 400 crores. Indian billionaire Gautam Adani led Adani Group's wholly owned subsidiary, Adani Defence and Aerospace, on October 18 signed definitive agreements to acquire Airworks. The company being acquired has diversified independent maintenance, repair and operations organization with a pan-India network presence across 27 cities. Airworks is the oldest MRO in India with 6 maintenance bays and over 900 maintenance experts. MRO refers to a range of activities that keep a company running on a day-to-day basis. Companies rely on their supply chains to provide the materials, tools and components they need for MRO activities. From the first P-8I aircraft phase 32 checks to phase 48 checks and MRO on the landing gear of the Indian Air Force's 737 VVIP aircraft, Airworks undertakes base maintenance for ATR 42x72, A320 and D737 fleet of aircraft. India's equity markets are staying in green. That's good news for investors and companies as the Hindu New Year approaches on 24th October with Diwali festival celebrations. Indian equity benchmarks ended higher for the third straight session on October 18th, led by buying in capital goods, banking and auto stocks amid positive global cues. BSE Sensex climbed 549 points to 58,960 and Nifty gained 175.15 points to 17,486. Mid-cap and small-cap indices on BSE rose 262 points and 202 points respectively. Capital goods, banking and auto stocks were the top sectoral gainers with their BSE indices zooming 621 points, 429 points and 430 points respectively. Of 30 Sensex stocks, 25 ended in the green. Asian stocks nudged higher on October 18th as the dramatic about turn in British fiscal policy brightened investor sentiment. And the US dollar took a breather at its lowest levels in more than a week as a revival in risk-taking lowered its appeal. At the end of day trading, BSE Sensex rose 146.59 points to close at 59,107.19, while the Nifty 50 inched 25.30 points higher to end at 17,512.25. A cyclonic storm is predicted over the Bay of Bengal on October 22nd. The India Meteorological Department has predicted a possible cyclone over the Bay of Bengal. Reportedly, the low-pressure area over the Bay of Bengal may intensify into a cyclone by October 22nd. A low-pressure area is likely to form over the southeast and adjoining the east-central Bay of Bengal over the next 48 hours. A report from IMD said that the storm is likely to move west-northwestwards and concentrate into a depression by October 22nd morning over the central Bay of Bengal. It is very likely to intensify further into a cyclonic storm over the west-central Bay of Bengal subsequently. However, the IMD said though the depression is likely to become well marked and turn into a storm, no forecast is being made on the intensity of the system and its path. Several coastal districts have been put on alert. The Odisha government has also cancelled the leaves of its employees in view of the forecast. The 1983 World Cup winning team member Roger Binny is the new president of the Board of Control for Cricket in India. Former India fast bowler Roger Binny has succeeded Sourav Ganguly as the new president of BCCI. The 1983 World Cup winner will be the 36th chief of the Indian Cricket Board. The 91st annual general meeting of the BCCI was held in Mumbai. Notably, Binny was the only candidate to have filed a nomination for the top post. Roger Binny said that he wants to primarily focus on the prevention of injuries to the players. He said that as the BCCI president, he wants to primarily focus on two things. First is the prevention of injuries to the players. Binny recollected that Jasprit Bumrah got injured just before the World Cup, an issue that affected the whole plan. Second, he wants to focus on the cricket pitches in India. Jay Shah will continue to serve as the BCCI secretary. Ashish Shelar has been appointed as BCCI treasurer. Rajiv Shukla will be the vice president, whereas Devajit Saikia will be the joint secretary. Binny has represented India in 27 test matches and 72 ODIs. The right-arm pacer bagged 47 wickets in tests while also picking 77 in ODIs. He was a crucial contributor to India's first-ever World Cup victory, being the highest wicket taker for India in the 1983 World Cup with 18 wickets. BCCI has also given the nod to staging a Women's India Premier League. An announcement regarding its schedule will be made later. Celebrated Indian director Mani Ratnam's film Ponniyin Selvan 1 has grossed over 450 crores or nearly $56 million at the box office worldwide. Mani Ratnam's Ponniyin Selvan Part 1 is having a fantastic run at the box office in the third week. The film is inching closer to 475 crores worldwide. The film is still being screened in the majority of the theatres in Tamil Nadu and in the international market. The film's collections will see a gradual decline once Siva Karthikeyan's Prince and Karthi Sardar grace the screens on October 21st ahead of Diwali. Ponniyin Selvan is one of the most anticipated films of 2022. The first part of the film was released on September 30th in 5 languages across the globe. According to the trade reports, Ponniyin Selvan crossed the 450 crore mark and is now inching closer towards 475 crore mark worldwide. The film surpassed Kamal Hassan's Vikram in Tamil Nadu and is just behind Rajnikant's 2.0 in the international mark. PS1, as the movie is called, has surpassed Vikram to become the all-time number 2 Kollywood grosser. The second part of Ponniyin Selvan is all set to hit the theatres in 6 to 9 months. Bollywood's major stars Aishwarya Rai Bachchan, Chyan Vikram, Trisha, Jayam Ravi and Karthi will have lead roles in this historical fiction.
That's all for this bulletin of the Daily India Report.
So there are, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful having that report, and thank you so much for that, Ankita. Right now, as I said before, we will also quickly look at all the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful having your company on this 20th day of October. Well, in Brisbane at the moment, once again, 22 degrees and cloudy. It's passed from the humid category into the being cloudy day. Well, right now, it's time to say goodbye until tomorrow and remain safe.